Today we are making one of the most famous Italian non-Italian dishes that our American friends love the most, spaghetti and meatballs. It's a shame that in Italy, if you try to order this dish at the restaurant, they just laugh right in your face. In fact, only 20% of Italians have ever eaten spaghetti and meatballs in their entire lives. So, for this cooking session, I want to show you guys how a typical hairy Italian would make their spaghetti and meatballs, as an homage to Italian Americans everywhere. Let's start by taking about 70 grams of bread and let's cut off the crust. I'm using this fancy bakery bread here, but you can use also sandwich bread or whatever. Break it in smaller pieces and let them soak in a bowl of milk. In a big bowl, add 200 grams of chopped beef. What the hell? Then take 200 grams of sausage and peel off the skin. You can do in a natural way or in a more ethical way, your choice. Add all the sausage in the bowl with the chopped beef. At this point we can start adding all the flavors that we want. So I'm gonna add about a spoonful of fresh parsley, chopped very fine. Instead of oregano, I'm gonna use fresh thyme from my garden, just one stalk. Then add one garlic clove, especially because I know you Americans love garlic. However, to make it less overwhelming, I'm going to remove the inside part called the soul or the anima, so that it's a little less potent. Chop it finely or use this cool tool, and your hands will say thanks. Now, if you really want to be a Latin lover, you can also add a little onion. 1 teaspoon, let's say 2. The good thing or the bad thing about this dish is that there isn't one true recipe. Feel free to add, for example, mint if you like mint, or basil if you like basil. Really, nobody cares. I mean, if you like garlic, put as much garlic you want. Actually, now I'm starting to understand why you Americans love this dish so much. It's so versatile that it's a dish of freedom! Remember the bread, let the milk drip out as much as you can and put it into the mixture with the meat. Last but not least, the parmesan. 30 grams of parmesan cheese or whatever weird American version you might have over there. At this point, I start to mix up already all the ingredients. When making meatballs, the hard part is making sure that they don't fall apart during cooking. So mash the meat together good, as this changes the consistency and helps to keep the meatballs together. Add 5 grams of salt and a little pepper to taste. Now we can add a whole medium-sized egg. Super important, wash your hands really well after you're done this step. Now let's mix everything together again to incorporate the egg well. Did you guys know that here in Europe the eggs are almost always brownish and not white? It was one of the most surprising things I learned the first time I visited the US. When the mixture is even, we can begin forming our balls. Personally, I don't like when meatballs are too large, so I'm going to make them a bit on the smaller side. You can use gloves for this part so the meat doesn't stick on your hands. Anyway, I'm gonna make my balls of about 30-35 grams each. Mash the meat together good and make sure your meatballs are really compact so they don't end up breaking apart while cooking. At the end it's just a matter of practice, but enjoy it and have fun! Dust a little flour on top of your meatballs. Then you should see your balls doing this. Place the army in combat formation. Then put the meatballs in the fridge for about 10 minutes. In the meantime, let's prepare our tomato sauce. I'm going to make a garlic and onion soffritto. First the garlic. Just use your engineering skills to get the best performance with a small amount of olive oil. Then it's time for the onion chopped extremely fine. Don't put onion and garlic together, otherwise the onion will burn. When the garlic begins to get the brownish color, take it out, leaving the olive oil with a nice garlic flavor. Now let's add our tomatoes, reduced into a sauce with a steel foot mill. Here's a trick. Wash the jar with some water and add it to the tomato sauce, so we can prolong the cooking time. Finally, I'm adding some fresh basil. Put the burner on low and let it cook. Let it cook. let it cook. To cook our meatballs, cover the bottom of the pan with olive oil. When the oil is hot enough, put the meatballs in. Use a large pan, so the meatballs can fit all together with enough space between each others. Cook each side for 2 minutes, so that it begins to form a crust on the outside. Rotate the meatballs with some tongs or with a fork and spoon, but be sure not to break them. Take into consideration that the bigger the meatball is, the harder it is to control how it cooks. When the meatballs are cooked, take them out and set them aside to dry a bit from the oil. That's a spicy meatball. Then we are gonna put our meatballs in our sauce. Always use a big enough pan. Let it cook for about 15 to 20 minutes, covering the meatballs with some sauce constantly. There's no spaghetti and meatballs without spaghetti, so put to boil plenty of salty water into a big enough pot. If you're not sure about the amount of salt, just taste the water. Come il mare. Meanwhile the water starts to boil, don't forget to feed the creatures. When the first bubble starts to appear, cook the spaghetti for about 8 minutes. Move the spaghetti into a pan and add a little bit of the tomato sauce from the polpette. Do it in this way if you like the risk, or take it easy. Mix it together on a low flame, cooking the spaghetti for another 2 minutes. It will make you feel like a true chef. And now it's time to plate. I'm gonna make 2 little nests for my meatballs. Let's see, 3 meatballs each should be enough. Though I don't judge you if you eat more, of course. Almost forgetting, a dash of parmesan on top. Just be careful, guys, with all the freedom inside this dish, the eagle can grab your balls and fly away with them. Watch your back!
Ladies and gentlemen, as a symbol of friendship between Italy and America, please welcome the spaghetti and meatballs of United States.
I have a question, by the way. How are you supposed to eat it? As an Italian, we would normally eat a dish of pasta first and then the meatballs after, but that can't be right, since this is called spaghetti and meatballs. So I could break a meatball and then take a little bit of pasta and a little bit of meatball, but then if it's broken, is it actually a meatball anymore? Maybe I can put a meatball in my mouth first and then quickly put some spaghetti in my mouth to eat them together. Yes, it's an option. It's good, okay. Or maybe I should put some pasta in first and then the meatball and inhale it all. Good. Or maybe I should take the pasta and with it put the meatball on my fork and then shove it all in my mouth with a little bit of force. It's a bit difficult, yeah, but it's okay. It's an option. It's good.
Option 2, option 3.
I don't know what to do. I don't know. How? Please. But while I'm asking these extremely philosophical questions, I've realized that this dish is goddamn good. America, you did it, and you did it good. Italy, American, who cares? I do really like this dish, so I have no other word than say thank you to all our American friends. But you know how Italians are picky about food, right? So please don't tell them that I really love this dish.